Good afternoon. Welcome into some breaking news, live edition here of Warchant TV. I'm Aslan Hajavandi, joined by managing editor of Warchant.com, Ira Schofel, as well as Warchant.com senior writer Corey Clark. Thanks for being here, everybody. Hopefully, we didn't pull you away from the Jeff Cameron show. If we did, well, you're probably interested to see what's all this all about on the screen. Leonard Hamilton apparently on the outs with Florida State here. Corey Clark kind of intimated that might be coming after the performance you saw on Saturday. We're still awaiting for an official release to come from Florida State, but we can say right now that it seems that Leonard Hamilton will be stepping down as head coach of Florida State's men's basketball team at the end of the year. Just how surprised or not surprised are you at this developing story?
Yeah, there's no seams about it. I think Leonard Hamilton, from what I understand, is talking to his team just now, or he just finished talking to his team about it. It's something that Florida State's administration and Leonard Hamilton have been talking about for a while. We all kind of raised our eyebrows about the fact that he never signed an extension at any point after the last two seasons, certainly after last season. And, I think the feeling around the program was this was an inevitability. The only thing that could have changed things really is if this team went on a dream run. And, for a little while there were some sparks of that, but then that's all kind of evaporated the last couple of weeks. And I think they just decided to go ahead and make it official. But, I don't think it was from what I understand, not a long contentious process. Leonard Hamilton is going to still be involved with the program in some capacity. He's going to help with the transition, with the process, identifying the next head coach. So this isn't one of those deals where it was a terrible meeting and he stormed out. This was an amicable agreement. And, and it's the end of 23 years. I think everybody feels like it's probably time.
Yeah. As we talk about this, Corey, we do have the official email from Florida State University. Hamilton submits resignation effective at end of season.
That's the only words on the screen I can read. Throwing that out there. I know I'm not. That wasn't a critique. It's just maybe I'm going to need new glasses.
I can read the quote in the statement from Coach Hamilton. I'm deeply thankful for the tremendous support of our fans, alumni, and everyone associated with Florida State throughout my time here. I am proud of the quality of the young men that it was my privilege to lead, for their faith in this program and in their belief in the philosophy that we try to instill in them over the years. I have been blessed beyond words for the opportunity and the experience we've had here. He also goes to talk about his family and him truly love this place, this institution, and its people. This is kind of what you didn't want a acrimonious sort of breakup, Corey, and so far on the surface here, it seems like it's pretty amicable.
Yeah, this is perfect. Perfect in quotes, obviously. But, look, perfect would have been him cutting down a net in New Orleans or wherever the Final Four is this year. But that's likely not going to happen. So the next best thing is that he gets it might not necessarily be on his own terms, but it is they're both sides have agreed to do this. It does not seem to be acrimonious at all. It seems to be amicable. I don't think he'd have give them a quote if it wasn't. And I think that when you lose 4 games in a row, like Ira was talking about, they were 13-5 and had a winning record in the ACC, and then the wheels came off. And now they've lost 4 in a row. They're 13-9. They've lost the 2 worst games of the season were the last 2. Certainly the one on Saturday was the nail in the proverbial coffin. But it just, if they would have beaten Boston College, if they would have gone 11-9, it just would have delayed the inevitable. We all think this was the end of the season, his tenure, right, Ira, without a run. And it became clear over these last 2 weeks that this team isn't going to make any sort of postseason run. And at that point, it's time to part ways, but part ways in the best way you can, which hopefully involves some sort of celebration of him on March 8th for that home finale against SMU.
Ira, when you look at this, what kind of jumps off to me is the word resignation. We don't say anything in here about retirement, but I guess maybe that would be kind of too soon to tell, and he can cross that bridge when he gets to the end of the season. But I guess what we see here and some of the people watching right now talking about they're glad it wasn't going to be a Larinaga where he quits in the middle of the season. He is going to finish the season out. Yeah. Do you take anything away from the fact that it says resignation, not necessarily the complete end of the line for Leonard Hamilton as a head coach?
Yeah, I think Leonard Hamilton, we all know him. And I think a lot of people that are watching this know Leonard Hamilton and have seen his competitive spirit over the last few years. I don't think he's a guy that's going to go golf. It's not like he's dying to go find to buy an island somewhere. He's a guy that is a competitor. He's been a competitor since he was a college basketball player. And before that, and when he was growing up. And so I don't think he feels like he's totally done doing whatever he's going to do in this sport. And listen, man, Doug Gottlieb got a job coaching basketball. So
It's not
maybe
going great.
so maybe hiring 76-year-old Leonard Hamilton is on somebody's radar. Listen, I don't know. I just think he doesn't want to just admit to himself probably that. But I do think this was part of the discussion. They didn't pick a word. I think he's not ready to say he's 100% retired. And listen, man, I've always thought, I said 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I thought Leonard Hamilton would be a great athletic director. It wouldn't shock me if he does something in the sports world. And for the time being, it sounds like he's going to be still working with Florida State, again, helping them with the search process, but then also, there might be some sort of partnership or relationship going forward, which again is good, man. Listen, man, the thing, and I thought Corey did a really good job of this in his column, is that, you can sit back and look at the wins and losses, and obviously that's what matters most. That's why they get paid, and the NCAA tournament appearances and all that. And we can argue how great of a career it was even at Florida State. I think by Florida State standards, it's a great career, but we can have that debate. What you can't debate is, man, what a great ambassador for Florida State, the lives he's touched. I mean, Corey and I got to see it firsthand because we covered the team even way before our Warchant days at the paper, where we were covering them home on the road. You really got to know the players. You're in the locker rooms on these road trips and NCAA tournaments. And the way he, Corey, you could talk about it, the way when Derwin Kitchen graduated, the first kid in his family to graduate, things like that. He was just a great person and great ambassador for Florida State. So I hope these last 9 games, and Corey articulated that well, that these last 9 games, that there is some of that feeling and not just, man, let's get this over with.
Yeah, I thought it was telling that the first line in his quote about the tremendous opportunity, how thankful he is. He's talking about the minis coach, not the wins he's had, but the what he's done and how he's been fortunate to have all these. It's not that quote; it's the first one. But yeah, that's a great quote too. But just about how fortunate he has to be able to touch all these people's lives and yeah, the Derwin Kitchen one is one, Ira. It's like we remember asking him on senior day. This would have been, when was Derwin a senior? Lord, 2011?
Yeah,
and Derwin had a unique journey to get to Florida State through a community college in Florida and St. John's, I think, and was ineligible for a while and then ends up graduating. And Leonard's literally getting teary-eyed. Big, bad, tough Leonard Hamilton has his eyes are welling up talking about Derwin Kitchen the day before his final game. And because he was graduating, not because he had scored points and helped him win games, because he was graduating. And I remember there was a story he told, I won't name the player, and you won't be able to figure it out because he's had a lot of good players that were from other countries. But it was a player from another country that was here that was a good player, starter. And he got suspended for a half of or a whole game. You know how Leonard is, and he won't ever tell us what it is on the record. He's never going to publicly shame one of his players. But he was talking to me about it later, and he's like, yeah. I brought him into the office and I said, you son of a gun. He didn't maybe use that language. How am I going to explain to your mom and your sister if you're failing out of school? You're not here to just play basketball, man. You're here to be a student. I made a promise to them that you were going to go to school, that you're going to become a better person. I'm not going to allow you to miss a class or miss a study hall. That stuff really did matter to him. It really did. This is not just all coaches say it matters to him. Leonard lived the life. He would suspend players in important games if they missed the study hall or missed a test or got a failing grade on something like that. He's for 23 years, he's been trying to raise men, not just have a good basketball team. It just so happened that it worked out. Occasionally he had a really good basketball team.
Aslan, can I just share two quick anecdotes as well?
What does Aslan care? He doesn't have to get on the road. I do.
All right, Corey, do you mind? Two quick anecdotes.
Let's make it quick.
No, 2 anecdotes I wanted to share. One is Terrence Shannon. I don't know if people remember Terrence Shannon. He was a big athletic forward that Florida State had here for a couple of years. And he was, really nice player and was developing well. And I think they thought he was going to be a huge part of that team coming up around the same time frame, midway through Leonard Hamilton's tenure. Well, late in the process, this is before the transfer portal was a thing, Terrence Shannon left Florida State, went to VCU, and basically just up and bailed on Florida State. And it was after most of the recruiting had been done, so they kind of really left them in the lurch. Well, people in the program were furious, and they loved Terrence. They was part of the team. But they were angry that this happened. Well, a couple of years later, after Terrence is done with college, he wants to get into grad school. He comes back to Florida State and basically asks Leonard Hamilton to help him getting into graduate school. And Leonard Hamilton not only helps him get into graduate school, lets him work out in their facility, basically takes him back like nothing had ever happened. I remember talking to CY, Charlton Young, who was on the coaching staff at the time. He's like, man, every other coach in America tells that kid to kiss his ass, kiss their ass. Like, listen, man, you screwed us. We're not rolling out the red carpet for you. And Leonard Hamilton's like, no, that's my son. I didn't like what he did, but he's one of my kids. And so that's the sign of it. Another one, just the loyalty. And I think it goes both ways, like Coach Bowden. Sometimes loyalty goes against you. Sometimes it works for you. You know, there have been several players throughout his tenure that people inside the program wanted him to get rid of, that he stood by and just tried to work through their things. And a lot of times it ended up working out really well. I'm not going to go through all the details, but, you know, again, that's the stuff that you can argue about the wins and losses and how, if they should have fired him in 2014 or whatever, but from the standpoint of how he represented himself in this program, I think it's what you would want if you're a Florida State fan.
It's crazy. What a career, though, all right, Ira, like a career arc at one school. Like, you could have made the argument in 2008 he should have been fired. That was 5 straight years of not being in the tournament. They had gotten really close, but they hadn't made it. And if they'd have fired him, it would have been a huge mistake, because they went on to go to 4 straight NCAA tournaments, the Sweet 16, and won the ACC championship. And then they have another 4-year stretch where it's like you could fire him right now.
Right.
You could fire him right now and everybody would understand. Then Jonathan Isaac comes and Dwayne Bacon's still there. And then you go on another year, another run where it would have been 5 NCAA tournaments in a row, not for COVID, with another ACC championship and 4 Sweet 16s. So it's like every time he hit a dip, he bounced back with one of the best runs in Florida State history. Now he's hit a dip and he's 76 years old and there's NIL. And he's got 0 years left on his contract, and the whole ball game is different. That's in. So I you know, NIL. I made the point in the column. You can't overstate how much NIL just curtailed this program. NIL and the portal, because they were the 4 best programs in the ACC for a half decade, and then all of a sudden the NIL comes, and then all of a sudden the Scotty Barneses of the world stop showing up. So that was a bad timing, but a really good run. For I think I can speak for you, a great person, a good run, a good basketball coach, a great person. And, you know, that's important these days.
Gabe, joining us, breaking news here. Leonard Hamilton announced that he will resign at the end of the season after 23 years at Florida State, 3-time National Coach of the Year, 5-time ACC Coach of the Year, the only coach to win Coach of the Year in the Big East and the ACC. Led Florida State to their first ever ACC tournament title and their first ever regular season championship as well. At the end of the statement, Michael Alford says, I'm excited for the future of men's basketball at Florida State. Thanks to Coach Hamilton's excellent stewardship and leadership, it's been proven that Florida State can be a contender in the ACC and nationally. Looking forward to continuing to build on what he's accomplished here as we identify the next leader of our program. What sort of net do you expect, I guess, not to put you in a too uncomfortable of a spot here, Ira, but as we wrap things up here, national search, do you think there's already probably been a short list that's been accumulated because of, as Corey's pointed out, the 0 years left on the contract going into the season for Leonard?
Yeah, and also real quick, just remind people that Jeff Cameron's show is still going on until 4 p.m. So when we're done here, you know, obviously watch us.
Go listen to that Slappy. See what he has to say. He's going to be wrapping up McElroy's win this weekend.
But you can go check out Jeff Cameron's show with him and Tom Lang. Yeah, man, this, again, that was kind of I think really the thought process behind the way they've handled this over the last year was, I think there were people who wanted them to make a change after last season. The program was kind of going in the wrong direction. Last year was really disastrous. All those players were leaving. The whole roster was turning over. It would have been perfectly fine to make a change at that point. But by doing this, that really gave them a chance to kind of get their ducks in a row, make a list, make a plan, figure out exactly who's interested, who's not interested. I'm not saying they've had a search yet. I think out of respect for Leonard Hamilton, I do not believe that they've had real conversations with anybody that they want to hire. But I do think that they've really figured out what they want to do, and they have a plan for what they want to do, and we'll see what they pull off. I mean, I think, the usual suspects that have been thrown out there a lot over the last several years, obviously, Sam Cassell, former FSU star, NBA assistant coach for a long time. He's expressed interest, and there are people that donate a lot of money to Florida State basketball who really like Sam Cassell and would like to see him get a shot. But there's also, I think an emerging candidate the last few years. You guys had him on, or at least Corey had him on an interview last year, Luke Laux, who's now with the Sacramento Kings and is, had a really impressive young NBA career as an assistant coach, is really well regarded, was a star player here. And then there's some other people with FSU ties, people that have coached at Florida State or been part of that circle. And then there's also, obviously, there's some up and comers out there as well. I don't think they're going to be able to get, people, when these things happen, people want to aim for the sky and, try to get this hot coach from, this successful Power 4 program, but that's probably not going to be realistic, but maybe an assistant coach from a top tier school or
so
a
basically,
mid-major head
you're
coach.
saying not Dennis Gates, but maybe CY.
Yeah, that's a perfect.
Right.
Yeah, that's perfect. And Dennis Gates, who was an assistant here for Florida State and did really well. People watching this would know.
Missouri
is now the head coach of Missouri, and I think he's making well over $4 or $5 million. I mean, he's doing really well, and they're one of the best teams in the country right now. That would be an almost impossible poll. Although, listen, man, Gates, Dennis, listen, let's get the band back together. No, he's a really good coach, and they're having a lot of success, and he does have some interest in Tallahassee. He was here. He likes it a lot, has a lot of friends and family here. So I think that's a possibility in terms of, something that might attract him, but I don't know that they're fishing from that pond. But CY, Charlton Young, who's his top assistant coach, would certainly be a strong candidate, assuming he wants it and assuming that, they can afford him, because I think, you and I both, I mean, we can think more highly of Charlton Young.
And then also, just real quick, Florida, they have a very good head coach right now, and I don't remember where he's from, but he
San Francisco, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he came from a very, very mid-major, the middest of mid-majors he came from. So, and I can promise you there was maybe 1% of the Florida fan base that had ever heard his name before the week he started getting mentioned for the job. So it could be a name completely out of nowhere that's at a smaller school, but odds are if Florida can't go raid a Power 4 program and get their head coach, Florida State probably can't either.
And look, I mean, Michigan just hired the guy from FAU, and it's going really well. So yeah, that's going to be the route. Try to find the ideal mid-major or an assistant at a bigger school, and then but then again, we still have that pool of FSU ties that's going to be probably a big part of it, especially if you think Leonard Hamilton's part of the process.
Gates making $4 million this past year. Leonard Hamilton making $2.25 million. And as their Twitter account said, Florida State, Leonard will address the transition during his post-game media availability after tomorrow night's game in Tallahassee against Notre Dame. That's at 7:00. As Ira did mention, though, for more information on this, head over to the Jeff Cameron Show, which is streaming live. We'll have more reaction as well over at warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles sports source. Again, Leonard Hamilton, after 23 years as the head coach of Florida State's men's basketball team, has announced he will resign effective at the end of the season. For Corey and Ira, I'm Aslan. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up and stay connected to warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles sports source.